Knowing your child's regulation language is helpful, but what most parents really ask me is, what do I do in the moment? In my last video, I introduced the 5 regulation languages, and I said I'd show you how to implement these into real life scenarios. Because understanding this concept is one thing, but actually putting it into practice when there might be bedtime meltdowns, sibling fights, hitting, kicking, screaming, that's something else. Hi, I'm Jane, and I'm a parent to a 5 and 3-year-old, and I've spent years teaching executives, CEOs how to regulate their nervous systems. And now I'm transferring that to parents because parenting sometimes feels like a battlefield, but I really want you to know that you're not alone. So before children can self-regulate, they need to co-regulate, and that's where we come in. And this is what I'm teaching you, how to co-regulate with your child so that they can learn to self-regulate. So regulation isn't something that we teach them later. It is something that we practice in the moment when they're having their meltdowns. Most parenting strategies fail in real moments because they assume that their child has a regulated nervous system. When a child is melting down, their nervous system goes into survival mode. So logic, reasoning, consequences, none of that lands when they don't feel safe. You can try all you like, but it's really not going to work. So stress shuts down the thinking brain. We've got the prefrontal cortex, which I've discussed previously in my videos. And when a child is having a meltdown, or they're throwing, or they're kicking, screaming, fighting with their siblings, that part of the thinking brain, the logic, the reasoning, rationale, it's just not going to work. They're not going to listen. They're not going to be able to absorb it. And if anything, it can add information overload. So it can be even more overwhelming and possibly escalate the situation. So children can't access language or logic when they're dysregulated. That's a really key point to remember. And this is why consistency alone will not work, of doing the same thing over and over. I've told you this several times. Do I have to tell you again? It's just really not going to assist with their process of learning to co-regulate with you and become from that dysregulated state to a regulated state. So you can't reason a child out of a nervous system state that they didn't reason themselves into. When a meltdown happens, the question isn't, how do I stop this? It's, what does my child's nervous system need right now, in this moment? I'm going to walk you through some examples for each of the 5 regulation languages. We'll start with touch and comfort, number 1. So some deep pressure hugs might be great to really give them a really nice firm hug around their body. Sitting close to them without talking, just being very close in that proximity. And if you feel it's appropriate, putting your hand on their back or their chest, for example, and just giving them a rub, giving their back a rub, or their chest a gentle rub, or with a little bit of pressure as well, a bit of firmness, especially if they're in the middle of that really melting down moment. For movement and release, number 2, stomping their feet, shaking around, pushing up against a wall, that can be really helpful. Really letting that energy go, just getting it out as much as you possibly can. Again, carrying something heavy. Now, I say this if dependent on age very much. If they're young and you're wanting them to pick up something heavy, it could actually be quite dangerous. So if they're that little bit older and in that moment they're able to pick it up, put it down, pick it up, put it down without hurting themselves, without dropping, then definitely go ahead. But that one is just very much up to your judgment as the parent in that particular moment of picking up something heavy and putting it down. It's a great way to exert energy, but of course you want your child to be safe at all times. Another one might be rocking or bouncing. So just rocking, getting your child to rock back and forth, or really just bouncing around, jumping on their feet, bouncing back and forth. That's another great way to exert some energy in those moments, just when it's happening. For number 3, words and understanding. Very important to ask them to name how they're feeling. Right, how are you feeling now? Uh, Giving them simple validation. So reaffirming what they're telling you back. And if it's appropriate to do so, extending that conversation out a little bit because they really connect with words, and having you validate them and understanding their feelings and where they're coming from. Make sure when you are talking with your words, it's a very calm tone, not raising your voice, not yelling, just keeping that co-regulation happening. We've talked about the mirror neurons. So they're picking up on your energetic field. They're mirroring your uh, state, really, how you're feeling and what you're exhibiting. So if you're nice and calm, then they're going to pick up on that calmness as well. And that's the whole purpose of co-regulation, to help calm them down. Also, make sure when you are talking with the words and understanding that you're not talking too much. So you use few words, but let them really express themselves in that moment. So for number 4, presence and proximity, sitting close is very important. Remember, we talked about leading them can be one of the worst things you can do. So sitting by them, but without fixing the situation. So you're in a close proximity, your presence is there. So very important to breathe, have that really nice, quiet, deep breathing, calming yourself, calming them down. And you might say a few words. For example, I'm here, without any demand, any need to go further than that, just letting them know that they're safe, you're there, you're close by. They might even turn away from you. They don't want to see you, but they're going to feel your presence there. They're going to feel that you're close by. And if they have turned away, that's when maybe you could use your words, I'm here, sweetie, or you're okay, you're safe, I'm here, I'm just going to sit behind you. Just very minimal words, but really letting them know that you're close by and your presence is there and they are safe and you're not going to leave. For number 5, routine and predictability, the same responses every time. They need to hear, they need to know what you're going to do, so it becomes routine. So this takes a few times to implement and integrate. The first time you start with these techniques, it is going to be foreign because it's something different, but the more you keep at it, again, that quickly becomes that routine for them. And then they can predict, oh, mum or dad is going to do this. I know exactly what's going to happen. And that alone is really going to help calm themselves down. Using familiar phrases for them, that you might decide to, okay, I'm going to write down 5 or 10 familiar phrases and I'm going to use those every single time. Again, that becomes the routine. And this is what these children really crave. And also visual cues. I think I discussed that potentially in one of my previous videos, but using visual cues can be really helpful. And that's also great where they are having a meltdown out in public or at a playground, or those transitions that we've discussed. You could, as well as talking to them, you could have created a visual cue that you can hold up, and this is what we're doing, and this is where we are now, this is where we're going. However creative you want to get with this, but visual cues can also be really good. So meeting the right regulation language will shorten these meltdowns, and not because you're controlling it by any means, but because you're meeting what their body needs, their nervous system needs to feel safe, and they feel met and they feel secure. So always remember, a dysregulated child needs the co-regulation to be able to, and the right regulation for their nervous system to be able to calm themselves down, get that prefrontal cortex back online, be able to think, be able to then have a discussion with you or whatever it might be afterwards. But in that moment, it's really about identifying what they need, their regulation language, and being able to meet that for them in the moment.